ask you something. When you think of zombies, do you picture mindless, slow-moving corpses? Or something fast, aggressive, almost alive? Because here's the truth most people miss. Not all zombies are the same. And the differences between Dying Light and Resident Evil proves that better than anything. These two franchises, which we all love, do not just give us different enemies. They give us completely different philosophies of infection, mutation, and survival. You see, one is grounded in real-world virology taken too far, and the other is about evolution pushed into pure biological horror. So today what we're going to do is we're going to break down the two. We're going to look at what actually causes the infection in each universe, how the zombies function biologically, why they behave so differently, and which one is honestly more terrifying. And then when we get to the end of it, we're going to grab the apex predator from each universe, and we're going to pit them together in a no-holds-barred, all-out brawl to see once and for all who is the stronger. So let's get into it. In part one, we're going to look at the virus origins, Dying Light versus Resident Evil. Let's start at the root of everything, the infections itself. Resident Evil introduces the T-virus and beyond. But in Resident Evil, everything begins with the T-virus. This virus was engineered by the Umbrella Corporation as a bioweapon. Not an accident, not natural, not even a mutation gone wrong. It was designed. But what was the goal of the designer? Well, the goal was to create living weapons. Now, the T-virus works in three ways. By 1, reanimating dead tissue, 2, rapidly mutating cells, and 3, rewriting the host's DNA structure. But here's where things get a little deeper. The virus doesn't just create zombies, it creates possibilities. That's why we see different variants such as lickers, hunters, tyrants, and even control mutations in certain individuals such as Albert Wesker. You see, in Resident Evil, the virus isn't just infection, it is forced evolution. But what about its counterpart, Dying Light? Well, Dying Light introduces us to the Haran virus. The Haran virus, just like the T-virus, is still man-made, but it behaves very differently. You see, the Haran virus spreads rapidly through bites, bodily fluids, and environmental exposure. But you see, instead of turning people into fully dead creatures, now it traps them in a state between life and death. And that's honestly more terrifying to me. That distinction between the two is everything. Because in Dying Light, the infected are still technically alive. Their metabolism is active. Their bodies are still functioning. This is not reanimation. This is biological corruption. So if we were supposed to look at the key differences between the two, we can say Resident Evil equals death, reanimation, mutation. Dying Light equals infection, degeneration, then transformation. One brings you back from the dead. The other destroys you while you're still alive. Now, part two, what are they actually? Zombies versus infected. Now, we gotta address the biggest misconception about Dying Light. Dying Light enemies are not traditional zombies. But before we jump into Dying Light, let's go back to Resident Evil zombies first. In Resident Evil, most zombies are dead bodies reanimated. Brain function is minimal, movement is slow, especially in classic entries like Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, or movement is erratic like in later games like Resident Evil 7 or 8 or 9. You see, they operate on instinct in Resident Evil. They feed, they attack, they spread. They are, in a sense, biological shells controlled by viral programming. Even when they evolve, they're still no longer human. Now, Dying Light has infected. They look zombified, but they are infected individual. Things are way more uncomfortable in Dying Light than in Resident Evil because these are still people in early stage of the infection. And in this early stage, they scream, react to pain, and show traces of awareness. And even in later forms, they are not just mindless, they are mutated versions of the living. This is why the horror hits so different in Dying Light. You're not just fighting monsters, you're fighting what used to be human that never fully died. Now in part 3, we're going to look at behavioral differences. And this is really day versus night horror that Dying Light kind of introduces. And this is where Dying Light completely separates itself from Resident Evil, because in Dying Light, the environment matters. You see, the Haran virus is affected by UV light. During the day, the infected are weaker, they're slower, they're way less aggressive. At night, however, everything changes. Volatiles, their apex predator, they emerge. Their speeds increases, aggression spikes. This creates a predator-prey dynamic. You're not just surviving in Dying Light, you're being actively hunted. Volatiles can jump, they can climb, they can parkour just the same as you. Resident Evil, on the other hand, has a completely different approach. In Resident Evil, there is a constant threat. Resident Evil doesn't rely on time of day mechanics. Instead, threat is constant. Danger is situational. Horror is controlled through environment. Zombies don't power up at night like Dying Light because they're already operating at their baseline horror level. So if we break down the contrast between these two when it comes to the environment, Dying Light is dynamic and it offers a reactive ecosystem, whereas Resident Evil is more controlled, but it offers escalating encounters. Now in part 4, we're going to look at mutations and evolution. And this is where Resident Evil dominates in complexity. The viruses in Resident Evil create specialized bioweapons, structured mutations, and hierarchies of infected. Examples include tyrants, which are controlled superweapons. Those would be the apex predators. Then you have lickers, who are sensory evolution. And then you have G-virus transformations, which is unstable evolution, such as what we saw in Resident Evil 2 with Dr. Birkin. Mutation here is purposeful, designed, and then weaponized. Dying Light mutations, however, are a little different. The mutations there are more adaptive. You get biters, which are baseline infected, virals, who are fast and aggressive, and then volatiles, which we mentioned are apex predators. These aren't engineered in a lab for combat roles. They're what happens when the human body tries and fails to survive the virus. Again, the key difference is here, Resident Evil offers you engineered monsters. Dying Light is survival gone wrong. But now to part 5, which is our favorite part. Which is more terrifying? Now this is a little subjective because the breakdown is a little different. Resident Evil's horror is a little different. It breaks down into a few ways: loss of control, scientific experimentation, and unnatural evolution. Fear in Resident Evil comes from what science created. Now I won't lie to you, I love Resident Evil, but Dying Light offers something that's a little bit more intense. You see, in Dying Light, it's loss of self, slow transformation, being aware of your own decline. You see, fear comes from, what if this happens to me? And for me, that's far more terrifying. So my final thoughts, Resident Evil makes you fear the monster. Dying Light makes you fear becoming one. Now the crazy thing is, because of this fact, when people talk about Dying Light, they always say the same thing. The infected are more terrifying, they're faster, they hunt you. And to be honest, they're right. But here's the thing, You see, fear doesn't always mean power. So now we're gonna get to the point where we've been waiting for. If the strongest infected from Dying Light went up against the most powerful bioweapon from Resident Evil, who actually wins? And I'm not talking about opinions, as I mentioned before. I'm talking about biology, design, and survival under extreme conditions. Because once you really understand what these creatures are, this fight stops being close. Now, as we mentioned before, this isn't zombie versus zombie. It's not even close. This is natural infection versus engineered evolution. So let's take Dying Light's apex predator, the Volatile, the Night Hunter. This is the peak of the Harran virus. These things are built to hunt. They move faster than you can process. They climb any and everything. They track movement in the darkness. They don't hesitate. They don't stalk for a long time. They see you and then they go. They are pure aggression. Now in Resident Evil, we're gonna look at Nemesis and the Tyrants. This is not just infection. This is intention. Nemesis was designed. Every part of him serves a purpose. Strength, durability, target tracking, adaptation. He isn't just dangerous. He was built to be unstoppable. One of them is the result of a virus doing its worst. The other is the result of humans trying to create the perfect killer. And that difference changes everything. Now, the first area where we're gonna pit these two against each other is in the area of speed. And this is where Dying Light hits first, and it hits hard. The Volatile takes a swing at Nemesis, and it knocks him back. You see, Volatiles don't move like zombies. They move like predators. They sprint across rooftops. They leap without hesitation. They close distances instantly. You don't see them coming until they're already on you. Now, if we compare that to something like Nemesis, he's fast without question. He can leap far, no question, but it's a different kind of speed. It's direct, linear, relentless, but not unpredictable. So if we're going speed versus speed, Dying Light wins. And there's no debate. Dying Light takes round 1. But let's look at round 2, strength. Now, strength changes the entire fight. A Volatile is powerful. It can tear through flesh, overpower a human instantly, but at the end of the day, it's still operating with a mutated human structure. Nemesis, on the other hand, Nemesis breaks that limit completely. When we are introduced to Nemesis in Resident Evil 3, he punches through a wall. You see, he breaks the limitations that a Volatile has completely. And not only can he punch through concrete, he can lift and throw massive objects. He uses weapons and raw force. Nemesis doesn't just attack, he destroys. So the verdict for round 2, strength goes to Resident Evil, and it's not even close. Now in round 3, we're gonna look at durability. And this is where the fight is decided. Not speed, not strength, durability. Volatiles can take damage. And I mean damage. They can survive hits, they can recover, but they can be killed. Nemesis, on the other hand, Nemesis doesn't just survive damage. He evolves from it. You shoot him, he mutates. You burn him, he adapts. You knock him down, he gets up stronger. This isn't durability, this is escalation. You're not wearing him down gradually, you're making him worse. And we see that when he goes against Jill. Jill burns him, he comes back. Carlos blows up a gas tanker, he comes back. He gets blown up by a bomb on the train, he comes back. He is molted in a vat of acid, he comes back again. So the verdict for round 3, Resident Evil wins durability. And once you understand that, you already know how this fight is gonna end. But we have one more area. Round 4, intelligence. Volatiles are smart, but in the way predators are smart, in the way that a lion is smart. They hunt, they react to responses, they adapt in the moment. But it's all just instincts at the end of the day. It's survival behavior. Nemesis, on the other hand, Nemesis has purpose. He tracks targets. He uses tools. He follows objectives. This is not just intelligence. This is programming. Nemesis was programmed to eliminate all of the STARS members, and that's what he attempted to do. He eliminated Brad, and then he spent the rest of the time hunting Jill no matter where she went. So the final verdict for intelligence? Resident Evil takes it again. So let's run a play-by-play of the fight. I'm gonna go through a play-by-play. Night falls. There's no UV light, no escape. Just 2 apex predators in the same space. A Volatile and Nemesis. The Volatile moves first. Of course he does. It always does. A blur of motion. It sprints, leaps, and crashes into Nemesis at full force. A perfect attack. Fast, violent, precise, enough to kill anything human. But Nemesis doesn't move. The Volatile circles now, relentless, restless even, calculating. It lunges again, claws tearing, teeth snapping, relentless. This is its fight. Speed, pressure, chaos. And for a moment, it looks like it's working. Then Nemesis reacts. Slow, deliberate. He grabs it. One hand, lifts it, and slams it into the ground. Hard. Concrete cracks. The Volatile recoils, but it's not done. It leaps again, faster this time, more aggressive, trying to overwhelm. But Nemesis is ready. He's watching now, learning, adapting. The next strike comes, and this time, he doesn't just stop it. He counters, grabs, crushes. The Volatile fights back, claws digging in, desperate, ferocious. But it doesn't matter, because Nemesis doesn't slow down. He doesn't panic, he evolves. The mutation begins. The arm changes, expands, becomes something worse. And now, the fight is over. One final strike, brutal, decisive, unavoidable. The Volatile drops. Nemesis stands. Damaged, but stronger. Because at the end of the day, speed can win fights, but evolution wins war. Now I want to hear from you. Did you expect that outcome? Do you agree that though the Volatile is much faster, the Nemesis is stronger, more durable, and far more intelligent? Thus, it takes this battle easily. Or do you think that a Night Hunter could actually take down a Tyrant? And if you had to choose one of the universes to be in, one that you believe you would survive in, which would you choose? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more breakdown like this, go ahead and check out my Resident Evil Requiem 1, 2, and 3 playthroughs, where I not only run for my life and scream, but I also break down the entire Resident Evil universe. I break down the lore and explain what's going on in all of the games from Resident Evil 0 all the way to Resident Evil 8. Thank you so much for watching this video. This has been a production from Reniverse Gaming. I am your boy, Rennie, always reminding you, don't get lost in the Reniverse. See you real soon.